also like to thank Labour for Refugees for co-hosting this town hall with us. Labour for Refugees have been advocating on behalf of refugees through activism outside the Labour Party and advocacy within it since 2001, and they were a key force in the closure of Manus Nauru in 2008. We will be circulating membership forms at the end of this meeting, and I encourage you all to join. I would also like to thank our fantastic panellists for agreeing to attend and speak today. Sabrin Farooqui is a New South Wales Labour Policy Forum member and the Vice President of Labour for Refugees. Alison Battison is the Director of Refugee Advocacy Group Human Rights for All. Finally, Ian Rintoul has been a tireless activist for the Refugee Action Coalition. Our town hall today will begin with 4-minute introductions from each of our speakers, sharing the insights they have gained about this issue through their refugee advocacy and activism. So with that said, I'll pass first to Sabrin to give her introduction. Thank you, Sabrin.
Thanks, Kian, for the fabulous introduction. I'd like to start by paying respect to the traditional owners of the land, elders past, present, and emerging. As Kian mentioned, I've been working with the refugees and migrant community for many years, and basically I help them with the settlement, and I'm also advocating for better policies for them through Labour for Refugees, where I'm Junior Vice President now. And I'd like to thank Young Labour Left and Labour for Refugees for co-hosting this event and giving a platform where we can discuss this very important issue of refugees and asylum seekers in this unprecedented situation of COVID-19. Yes, as Kian wonderfully mentioned, there are grave concerns for people in onshore and offshore immigration detention facilities. In PNG and Nauru, service providers working with the refugees and people seeking asylum are worried about the capacity of health system in those countries to respond to this pandemic, and especially those who have been transferred from offshore facilities to Australia for medical treatment and have been kept in APOD, which is the alternative places of detention in the hotels in Melbourne and Brisbane, are more vulnerable to COVID-19 because they were brought here since they had medical conditions. So in detention centers and in these hotels, they are living in a very crowded environment, which is not letting them maintain the social distance, which we all are supposed to maintain here in Australia. And they can't maintain the self-isolation either. So, and these hotels are in the city. In Melbourne, it is in Preston, and which is in not Melbourne. So they're not isolated from the wider community, and the security guards, service staffs, cleaners, and others go in and out. So they can carry infection in, and others will carry it out. So, and a staff member in Kangaroo Point in Brisbane has been tested COVID positive. So keeping them in such a condition is not only a threat to them, it is a threat to the community because they are in the community. And the government is not providing any indication of how they will manage the whole issue, whether consideration is being given to the community detention. But it is absolutely important that government does that as soon as possible. It is Australia's national interest. The other thing is, other big concern is medical and welfare support for these asylum seekers and bridging visa holders. It is a big concern because, like many of us, they are losing jobs, but they don't have access to JobKeeper or job seeker payments. So they are falling through the cracks. So to me, it looks like the government has completely forgotten them. And I'm sure everyone will agree with me that no one should be forgotten in this crisis, particularly those who come to this country in search of safety and protection. So it is clear that the most appropriate and safest response in the relation to the detention center in current circumstances is to release people in the community detention center. Well, it is true that cases have been trending down, but at the same time, there is a risk of second wave of virus, and which can be worse than the first wave. And Singapore can be taken as an example, where we know that the government completely ignored the migrant workers' accommodation, which is absolutely crowded and unhygienic. And that was the blind spot of the government. what happened next? The virus spread it from there. When the rest of the country thought it's over, it started spreading from there. So it can be taken as an example. So it is absolutely a significant matter, and concern has been raised by various organizations and by individuals. Labor for Refugee has been very active in raising this concern. We endorse the statement made by Australian Human Rights Commissioner Edward Santo, who has declared that these detainees should be put into community detention where it is safe to do so. And Labour for Refugee also signed the Refugee Action Coalition statement and supported New South Wales Council for Civil Liberties, demanding the same. Labour for Refugee has become a signatory with other groups and organisations in an open letter addressed to the Prime Minister as part of the Refugee Council of Australia's campaign, which is #Nobody Left Behind. And some of you may know Labour for Refugee Victoria has written to their Premier and Minister about the men locked up in Mantra Hotel in Preston. So, and if you want to know more about and details about these things, please go to our website, which is www.labor4refugees.com. We have been working since early 2000 to reform the refugee policy of ALP and make it better. So regarding the matter of the detention center, we have received support from some Labour MPs like Christina Kennelly, Jed Carney, who have expressed their concern about this situation. But now we will call the opposition leader to ask the government to move these refugees and asylum seekers to safe community accommodation to ensure their health and safety in current COVID-19 crisis. And would like to see the opposition leader absolutely vocal about that. That's a bit from me. And I'd like to thank the team of Young Labour Left for organizing this event. Back to Kian.